Well, it's a very positive signal from Jeremy Hunt and Greg Clark that they prioritise medicines cooperation as part of the Brexit process. It's really important that when the UK leaves the European Union, firstly, patients don't notice any difference, so they can get access to medicines quickly. But also from an investor point of view and for the point of view of jobs here in the UK, we want to make sure that Brexit is a success, and the best chance of achieving that is medicines cooperation. So it's really great that the UK government recognised it.
It's a rather odd way for ministers to carry on, though, by publicising their position via a letter to the Financial Times, isn't it?
Well, I think the real issue here is that it's important that everybody recognises how important it is, not just for the UK, but also for patients in the European Union, that we sort out medicines cooperation as quickly as possible. This is in Europe's interest as well as it is in the UK interest. So what we hope is that the European Union colleagues will recognise, I think, the leadership shown in the letter today and start working quickly to achieve the sort of cooperation that's been outlined.
So how deep is collaboration with the EU going to have to go on drug approvals after Brexit?
Well, what we hope is that much of the cooperation that we see today between the UK regulator, the MHRA, and the European system will continue to work. Now, we understand that the role of the ECJ, for example, the European Court of Justice, is a red line for government. But we think actually there are ways around that. We could envisage a system where ultimately the UK courts could, in effect, oversee the last stage of the process, but the real work could still be done in cooperation. There's no reason why that can't happen.
But essentially you want a regime that has equivalence with the European Medicines Agency?
Essentially, yes, and we want to make sure that we continue to work, whether it's on the licensing of medicines, whether it's on monitoring of patient safety of medicines, which is very important, or whether it's on things like infectious disease control across Europe. You know, this matters for people's health, so it's really important that we recognise it quickly and we get it right.
But because the UK market is going to be smaller than the EU 27 post-Brexit, shouldn't we be doing things to make the UK even more attractive a place to develop drugs than it is presently?
Well, of course, the UK is part of a global system of drug development. We're a global industry, but the UK is a really important home for the pharmaceutical industry here. We're a £30 billion contribution to GDP. We have many thousands of scientists working on developing medicines. Many of the medicines that you or I would take may have been invented here in the UK. And we hope that that will continue. And the medicines cooperation, the sort of medicines cooperation that's been called for today, is a really important step in ensuring we can continue to have a thriving life science sector here into the future.
But isn't there a danger that if we do try and become more competitive than, say, the EMA or even the FDA in the United States, standards may be dropped somewhat? Would that put patients at risk?
I think standards absolutely need to be maintained. Nobody would call for a lowering of regulation standards. It's there for a really good reason. We want to make sure that that's maintained, and we want to make sure that the UK continues to work in a very similar way that it works today, so that there's continuity, so that there's certainty for investors. So whether you're a patient, whether you're an investor, or whether you're a scientist working in a pharmaceutical company here in the UK, you won't notice the difference, and we hope that will be a positive step.